The rain had fallen heavily the night before, leaving the streets of Lekki soaked and the earth fragrant with promise. Mariam adjusted the strap of her handbag as she stepped out of her silver SUV, heels clicking against the tiled driveway of her newly built home. At 32, she had the kind of life many prayed for, married to a wealthy business magnate, mother to a beautiful daughter, and the co-owner of a thriving interior design company. But perfection had a cost. Her husband, Chike, was more married to his empire than to her. Love had turned to habit. Presence had become absence. That morning, she wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary. She had planned to visit her shop, check the workers installing chandeliers at a client's mansion in Ikoyi, and be home in time to supervise their daughter's home lesson. But as she walked towards the gate, her eyes caught something unusual. A man stood at the entrance, speaking to their security guard. His back was to her, tall, muscular, wearing a soaked white shirt that clung to his bronze skin. Even from behind, there was something uncomfortably magnetic about him. She shouldn't have looked twice, but she did. The guard Musa noticed her and straightened. "Madam, this man say he fixed generator. Say you call." "I didn't," Mariam replied, cautious now. The man turned, and she blinked. He had the kind of face that made women forget what they were saying. Sharp jawline, soulful eyes with lashes too long for a man, lips curved in a constant smirk. He looked like he belonged on a magazine cover, not at the gate of her home. "I'm sorry, Ma. I think I got the wrong address," he said, voice smooth, accent hinting at Port Harcourt. "Someone on this street called me. Number 6, I think." "This is number 9, she replied, trying not to sound breathless. "Ah," he smiled. "Then I've been misled by Google Maps again. My apologies for the disturbance." As he turned to leave, her eyes betrayed her. They followed him longer than they should have. Later that night, as Mariam sat at the dining table opposite Chike, who was more engrossed in a report on his tablet than her, she kept thinking about the stranger. She didn't even know his name, but her mind had archived the sight of him like a forbidden painting. "Chike," she said softly, hoping for conversation. "Yes," he replied without looking up. She waited. Nothing else came. "I was thinking maybe this weekend we could. I'll be in Abuja, meeting with the logistics board, you know that." "Of course." She stabbed a piece of grilled plantain with her fork. She didn't bring him up again. But the man at the gate stayed in her head. He was danger wrapped in attraction, a question she knew she had no business answering. A week later, he returned. She was in the compound, supervising the delivery of tiles when he walked past again, talking on the phone. Their eyes met, this time intentionally. "You again," she said, with a teasing smile. He grinned. "You remembered me?" "You were quite memorable," he laughed. "I really was at number 6 this time. Installed a new inverter. They said your compound is the biggest on this street. I couldn't miss it." His confidence bordered on flirtation, but not disrespect. She found herself smiling more than she should. When he introduced himself, she felt an odd thrill repeat his name in her mind like a whisper. "Nice to meet you properly, Tari. I'm Mariam." "Married, I assume?" he asked, nodding to her ring. "Very." Her smile dimmed slightly. "And happy?" he asked, more softly. Her lips parted slightly, but she didn't answer. Tari smiled gently. "That's what I thought." That night, she couldn't sleep. Her mind replayed their conversation, analysing every glance, every word, every pause. Chike snored softly beside her, unaware that another man had touched something he no longer did, her attention. By the end of the week, she began to look for Tari. Not intentionally, or so she told herself, but each time she heard the buzz of a generator or the sound of footsteps outside, she'd check. When she passed number 6, she slowed down. When she didn't see him, she was disappointed. When she did, she smiled like someone had just played her favourite song. She didn't tell her best friend Amaka. Amaka was the kind of friend who believed marriage should be endured, not enjoyed. She would call it an emotional affair. She would remind Mariam of her vows, but Mariam didn't want logic. She wanted feeling. The third time they met was at a cafe in Victoria Island. She was with her assistant, reviewing fabric samples. Tari walked in, same casual jeans, same dangerous confidence. Their eyes met, and this time he walked straight to her table. "Do I need to buy a generator for you to agree to have coffee with me?" he joked. Her assistant looked between them in confusion. Mariam fought a laugh. "This is my assistant, Leo." "Leo, this is..." A technician. Tari's smirk deepened. When Lio excused herself to take a call, Tari leaned in slightly. You know what's funny? What? I don't think I've ever been so curious about a woman I can't have. And I've never been so tempted by a man I shouldn't even be talking to, she whispered. Their eyes locked. Something unspoken but powerful passed between them. She stood up. I have to go. Next time, he said. There won't be a next time. But they both knew she was lying. That night, Mariam did something she had never done in her marriage. She looked at herself in the mirror not as a wife or a mother, but as a woman. She untied her hair, let it fall in waves, traced her neckline with her fingers. Chike came in briefly, told her he had a late Zoom meeting, kissed her on the cheek and left again. She stood there for a long time, staring, wondering. How had a stranger stirred more heat in her with one look than her husband had in years? It wasn't about sex. Not yet. It was about being seen. Desired, chosen, and she missed that. Deeply. Between his hands and her conscience. For days, Mariam tried to distract herself with work, motherhood, and prayer. But distraction is a shallow remedy when temptation lives deep inside the bones. She found herself revisiting that moment in the cafe like it was a scene from a forbidden movie she couldn't stop playing. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Tari leaning toward her, his voice smooth like melted chocolate, daring her with every glance to let go of her restraint. On a Wednesday afternoon, the temptation reached her doorstep, literally. She was in her home office, typing invoices when Musa, the security guard, knocked. Madam, that man, the technician, he say he day here to help fix the generator noise. Number 6 call am, but them no day. He day wait outside. Mariam's heart dropped into her stomach. Tari, she asked too quickly. Musa raised a brow. Yes, ma. She cleared her throat. Tell him to wait. She should have stayed upstairs, but 5 minutes later, she found herself outside by the gate, acting like she was checking the plants. He stood near his van, arms crossed, eyes finding hers immediately. You again, she said softly. I was just here for a job. And yet here you are, again. By coincidence, he chuckled, or destiny, whichever offends you less. She looked away, smiling against her will. He walked closer, but not too close. You keep looking for reasons not to like me. I can see it in your eyes, because it would be easier that way. And yet here we are again, talking, in private. Mariam exhaled. You're dangerous? No, he said softly, stepping forward. I'm honest. The danger was already inside you. I just awakened it. The truth hit her harder than a slap. Before she could reply, her daughter Zena came running out, her nanny chasing after her. Mummy, mummy! I want biscuit! Mariam scooped her up, heart pounding, cheeks flushed. Tari stepped back respectfully. As she turned to go inside, she looked over her shoulder. He was still watching her, eyes dark with promise. That night, she barely spoke to Chike. He was exhausted from the board meeting, complaining about inflation, exchange rates, and staff incompetence. She smiled where needed, nodded where expected. But her mind was elsewhere, with a man whose hands hadn't touched her skin but had touched something deeper. Her need. The next day, her phone rang around 3 p.m. It was an unknown number. Hello? Mariam? It's Tari. She nearly dropped the phone. How did you get this number? I have my ways. Are you upset? Yes? Because I called? Or because you wanted me to? She closed her eyes. I need you to stop. This is not right. I'll stop, but not until I say this. You deserve more than silence and routine. You deserve fire. You deserve to be seen. She hung up. But that night, she dreamed of his hands. The spiral began slowly. She'd wake up earlier to do her makeup, knowing there was a chance she might see him while dropping Zena off at school. She started wearing more fitted clothes again, things she hadn't worn since her honeymoon days. She told herself it was just self-care. It wasn't. They met again at the fuel station on Admiralty Way. She was in her car. He was ahead of her. When he looked in the rearview mirror and saw her, he smiled and waved. Her hands trembled. Drive forward, madam, the attendant said. She did, but only to end up parked next to him. I swear I'm not stalking you, he joked. I think the universe is, she replied. He stepped closer, leaned through her open window. Give me 1 hour, just one. Let me show you how a man treats a woman he sees. She hesitated. What if someone sees us? Then let them envy what they don't understand. 1 hour became 2. They ended up at a secluded art gallery in Ikoyi. He didn't touch her. just stood beside her, explaining the paintings like he'd studied them for years. He was intelligent, poetic, intense. "Mariam," he said at the final painting, "if loving you is wrong, then let me be the villain in your story. I'll carry the blame, but I won't apologize for wanting you." She didn't kiss him that day, but her silence said she would, soon. The next time they met, they did more than talk. It was a rainy afternoon. She had told her assistant to cancel all appointments. She booked a suite at a boutique hotel in Victoria Island, told herself it was for a nap, for quiet. But when he showed up, neither of them pretended anymore. When he touched her, she melted like she had been holding her breath for years. There was no guilt in that room, only passion and fire. And tears, because halfway through she realized she had never been touched like that, not even on her wedding night. Afterward, wrapped in white sheets, she stared at the ceiling. "What now?" she whispered. Tari looked at her, the weight of reality creeping in. "Now we lie like everyone else in love," she laughed bitterly. "Love?" He touched her face. "Yes, I didn't plan to. But it's real." She buried her head in his chest. "Then we're doomed." That night, she cooked for Chike. For the first time in months, he noticed. "What's the occasion?" "Just felt like it," he nodded. "You're glowing. Did you do something to your skin?" She smiled. "Something like that." But deep inside, guilt began to grow like a weed. It didn't shout. It whispered constantly. By the third month, Mariam had perfected the art of secrecy. The burner phone lived inside her makeup bag, hidden beneath foundation she barely used. Her stories were airtight. She was always meeting clients, always running errands, always checking on the Lecky showroom. Her driver never asked questions, and when she used her own car, she took the long routes, the back roads where no one knew her name or her story. But secrets are never still. They move, they shift, they grow teeth. What started as monthly rendezvous with Tari quickly became weekly, then every other day. Sometimes they didn't even have sex. They'd just lie in bed, talking, laughing, dreaming of a life they'd never have. "I want to take you away from all this," he said once, fingers trailing down her bare shoulder. "To where?" she asked, smiling. "Anywhere you're free to love me out loud. You speak like love is enough. It is." "No, Tari," she whispered. "Love is just the beginning of pain." Mariam was changing, and people noticed. Her skin glowed, her laughter returned. She walked like she was dancing to music no one else could hear. Her staff complimented her style. Even Chike began to look at her more attentively. "You're different lately," he said over dinner. "Happier. Is that a bad thing?" "No, it's just surprising." Surprising, yes, because she hadn't felt alive like this in years. But along with the aliveness came a deep ache, because with every meeting, every kiss, every lie, she was building a world that couldn't survive daylight. And then the first crack appeared. It came in the form of a missed call. From Chike, while she was in Tari's arms. She didn't hear it. She was lost in laughter, in sweat, in ecstasy. But when she saw the notification afterward, her stomach flipped. "Don't panic," Tari said, kissing her forehead. "You can say you were in a meeting." But the lie tasted sour this time. The next morning, Chike handed her his phone. "Who's this?" Mariam froze. It was a picture of her, laughing, with Tari, at a gas station. "Oh, that was the technician I told Musa to call. He fixed our generator. I ran into him there, nothing serious." Chike stared at her. "You've never mentioned this man, yet you look quite friendly. He was just being polite." Chike didn't respond. He handed the phone back and left for his office. Mariam collapsed on the couch. Someone had taken that photo. Someone was watching. By evening it got worse. An envelope was delivered to their gate. No return address. Just her name in block letters. She opened it with trembling hands. Inside were 5 glossy photographs. One of her entering a hotel. One of her in Tari's arms at the reception. One of them kissing in the hallway. One of her naked back through the half-open blinds. One of them sleeping, entangled. Mariam's legs gave out. She dropped to the floor. The final item was a note, handwritten, "Your secret is safe. For now, but secrets don't stay buried forever. You know what to do." No number, just silence. She didn't call Tari, she didn't go to work, she didn't eat. She just stared at those photos until her tears dried into rage. Who was behind it? A hotel staff? A private investigator? Chike himself? Was this the end? Was her life about to unravel? When Tari finally came to her gate unannounced, She met him at the garden. "I've been calling." "What happened?" She handed him the envelope. He went pale. "Jesus! Someone knows. Do you think... Chike?" "I don't know." "What do we do?" "I don't know, Tari," she screamed. "I don't know anything anymore." He tried to hold her. She pushed him away. "This was a mistake," she said. "No, loving you was the truest thing I've ever done. We don't have a future. We were playing with fire and now the house is burning." He clenched his jaw. "So that's it? You're walking away?" "I have a daughter, Tari. A home. A name. I can't lose everything because I wanted to feel alive." Tari didn't beg. He just nodded and walked away. She didn't stop him. But her heart shattered. That night, Chika didn't come home. His phone was off. Mariam couldn't sleep. Around midnight, her phone buzzed. "Unknown number," she answered. A disguised voice whispered, "Next envelope goes to your husband's board members, unless you're ready to talk." Mariam stared into the dark, heart pounding like war drums. The voice on the other end of the phone was deliberate and terrifying. She wanted to scream, but her mouth stayed frozen. Her worst nightmare was no longer a possibility. It had become her reality. The call ended before she could reply. She sat alone in the living room, the shadows on the walls dancing like mockery. For a full hour she didn't move. She just sat there, wrapping her arms around herself, whispering prayers, apologies, curses, everything and nothing. By 2 a.m. she was pacing. By 3 a.m. she was vomiting. And by dawn she had made a decision. She wouldn't be controlled. Whoever was behind this blackmail didn't know who she was. She was not weak. Not anymore. The next day, she told Chike she needed to travel to Abuja for a supplier dispute. He barely looked up from his laptop. His distance stabbed deeper than any insult. She flew to Abuja, but not for suppliers. She met a private investigator, a discreet woman named Muna who had once worked in counterintelligence. Mariam laid out everything, photos, the voice, the timeline. She expected judgment. She got focus. "We'll find them," Muna said, "but you must stay calm. Act nor be ready for a storm." "I've been living in a storm." "No," Muna replied, eyes sharp. "You've been dancing in the wind. The storm is just beginning." Back in Lagos, Mariam went to church, not for prayer, for answers. She sat in the back watching people cry and lift their hands. She envied their peace. She envied the days when all she wanted was a husband, a child, and a business. Now she had those and a threat lurking in the shadows of her joy. Tari called. She declined. He messaged. She didn't reply. She couldn't risk it. At least not yet. 3 days passed. Then another envelope came. This time, it wasn't delivered. It was slipped into Zena's school bag. When Mariam opened it and saw a photo of her in that same hotel suite, topless, smiling, next to a screenshot of Zena's school schedule, her knees buckled. Now it was war. Muna traced the photos to a freelance spy for hire, a bitter former journalist who had been fired for unethical reporting. He now made his living by selling secrets, especially marital ones. His name was Bala O. He was dangerous, but greedy. People like him, Muna explained, don't want to destroy you. They want to own you. Your fear is their leverage. What does he want? Money, silence, power, sometimes all three. I can't pay him forever. Then we expose him. The plan was simple. Bait. Mariam would meet Bala, offer money, pretend submission. Meanwhile, Muna would record track and trap. They arranged the meeting at a hotel in Ikeja. Mariam wore sunglasses, a scarf, and fear like perfume. He was already there, sipping brandy like a movie villain. "You've aged since the photos," he said, smiling without warmth. "And you're smaller than I expected," she shot back. He laughed. "I like you, smart, pretty, tragic. What do you want? 5 million, and I disappear. That's too much." "Not for the price of silence," she sighed. "Give me time." "You have 3 days." He handed her a flash drive, a preview of what I can release if you disappoint me. She took it, left. Outside, Muna followed him, and 24 hours later he was arrested, not for blackmail, but for possession of spyware, which they found on his laptop. Enough to convict, enough to silence. But the damage was already done. Mariam had spent months building lies. Now she had to live in them. Tari reached out again. "I heard what happened. You okay?" She replied finally. "No, but I'm alive." They didn't speak after that. Chike returned home one night and placed an envelope on the table. It was the same envelope Bala had sent. "You don't need to lie," he said calmly. She stared, frozen. "I've known for weeks. I was waiting to see what you'd do." Tears welled. "Chike, I married a woman with fire in her. I thought I could extinguish it. I was wrong. You stopped seeing me. And you found someone who did, she cried. But he didn't comfort her. I won't expose you. I won't shame you. But I won't trust you again. Are we over? He hesitated. We're something else now. Maybe strangers. Maybe housemates. Maybe just parents. Do you still love me? He stood. That's the cruelest question of all. Weeks passed, but time did nothing to heal what had been broken. The house was quiet now, not just in sound, but in spirit. Cheeky had not left, but he was no longer present. He moved through rooms like a polite ghost, calm, distant, predictable. Mariam hated the silence between them more than she ever hated their arguments. At least arguments meant someone still cared. Zena noticed too. Why doesn't Daddy tuck me in anymore? Daddy's just tired, baby. But even at 6, Zena knew that was a lie. Mariam spent her days on autopilot, her nights sleepless. She had deleted all of Tari's messages, blocked his number, and buried their memories deep under layers of shame and guilt. But sometimes in the middle of the night, she'd reach for her phone, unlock it, and hover over his name, tempted to hear his voice just once more. She never pressed call, but the urge never left. In her dreams, they were still together. In her reality, they had become nothing more than a cautionary tale. Then one morning she received a letter, handwritten, from Tari. I won't call, I won't chase, but I needed to say goodbye in words that won't vanish with time. You were never just a fling. You were my awakening, my sin, my blessing. I don't regret loving you. I regret that we had to love in the dark. I hope you find peace, even if it's not with me. T. Mariam read it over and over. Each time, the words cut differently. She cried. Then she burned the letter. She had to. One Saturday afternoon, Chike came home early. Zena was away at a birthday party. Mariam was pruning the roses, hands dirty, face bare, her spirit exposed. I spoke to Pastor James, Chike said suddenly, standing behind her. She turned. About what? Us. She didn't know what to say. He sighed. He asked me if I wanted to fight for this marriage, and I couldn't answer. Because you don't? Because I don't know who I am anymore. You were right in a way. I stopped seeing you, but you stopped seeing me too. I was lonely, Chike. I tried to talk to you. I tried to reach you. And when that failed, you reached for someone else. Her eyes welled up. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying I was drowning. And instead of asking me to swim with you, you found another lifeboat. Silence. Then he sat beside her on the garden bench. Do you want to fix this? Yes, she whispered. Then we start with truth, and she told him everything. Every detail, every lie, every kiss. He flinched, but he listened, and when she was done, he didn't walk away. He just said, I don't forgive you yet, but I'm willing to try. Months later, they began counselling. Slowly, painfully, they pieced something back together. Not the old marriage, but a new one built from ruins. There were setbacks, but also breakthroughs. He took her hand again. She cooked for him. They danced in the kitchen like they were newlyweds. Love wasn't trust. Love wasn't even forgiveness. Love was the decision to stay. As for Tari, he disappeared from her life like a beautiful ghost. But some nights, when the wind carried a certain scent, Mariam would pause. And remember. Not with longing, not with shame, but with understanding. Because temptation may have stolen her peace, but it gave her truth. And truth, though brutal, had set her free.